Greetings, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. A surprisingly large number of people still believe that present-day South Africa is among the possible locations of biblical Israel. The information which I will now share with you proves beyond reasonable doubt that not only that biblical Israel could not have been located in or even near present-day South Africa, but also that the place in the land of Canaan, which Abraham called home, is located in present-day Sudan. Any person who wished to hide the location of biblical Israel had of necessity to also hide the location of the land of the Philistines. And that is because the Philistines were neighbors with biblical Israel. Therefore, any person who successfully locates the land of the Philistines can be sure that the biblical Israel is located in the same neighborhood. And so the question is, where was the land of the Philistines? The majority by far of internet resources claim that the Philistines were descendants of the so-called Sea people. This is a people of uncertain origin who are believed to have swamped the territories to the north and east of the Mediterranean Sea during the Bronze Age, destroying everything in their path before disappearing into the mists of history. The claim that the Sea peoples were the ancestors of the Philistines smacks of exactly the kind of cover-up that you expect of someone who is trying to falsify the location of biblical Israel. The reason is because it is the Egyptians who gave the Sea peoples that name. That is something the Egyptians would never have done if the Sea peoples were truly the ancestors of the Philistines, because the Egyptians were themselves the ancestors of the Philistines. In other words, the only way that the Sea peoples could have been the ancestors of the Philistines is if the Sea peoples were Egyptians, and we know that they were not. The book of Genesis chapter 10 and verse 14, as well as the book of Joshua chapter 10 and verse 21 to 23, together reveal that the Philistines were descendants of the intermarriage that took place between the children of Pathros, who are called the Pathrusim, and the children of Kasloch, who the Bible calls the Kasluhim. Pathros and Kasloch were both sons of Mizraim, who is the father of all Egyptians, and a son of Ham, the son of Noah. Moreover, the book of Joshua reveals that all 7 sons of Mizraim settled along the brook of Egypt, which it calls the Sihor River. We can tell that the Sihor River is the same as the Nile River, because in chapter 44 and verses 47 to 48 of the book of Joshua, it says that the wife of Potiphar, the Egyptian master of Joseph, tried to force him to sleep with her or to lie with her at a time when all members of Potiphar's household had gone off to celebrate the flooding of the Sihor River, as was the custom of all Egypt to do. The only river whose flooding all Egypt celebrated is the Nile River. Therefore, the Sihor River and the Nile River are one and the same. What that means then is that the Philistines settled, just as their fathers must have settled along the Nile River. And for biblical Israel to have been neighbors with the Philistines, it had to be located to the south of Egypt, but no further south than the beginning of the Nile River. That makes it impossible for biblical Israel to have been located in or even near present-day South Africa. So where along the Nile River was the land of the Philistines? The system for naming which Abraham used to give the name Beersheba to the place in the land of Canaan where he called home, can give us a clue as to the location of that land. In Beersheba, there was a well over whose ownership a dispute had once arisen between Abraham and the servants of Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. That dispute was resolved when Abraham swore an oath with Abimelech, confirming that Abraham is the one who dug that well. In witness of that oath, Abraham gave Abimelech 7 young sheep, and so gave the name Beersheba to that well. Sheba is the word for, or Saba is the word for 7. Bar appears to have been the word in general used in that area for a place which had water but which was not a sea. We can tell that is so because Hagar, the concubine of Abraham, also gave the name Bar Lahai Roi to the well where an angel appeared to her as she was fleeing from Sarah, Abraham's wife. And therefore, if we can locate a place close to the Nile River where the word Bar is used in the same way that Abraham and Hagar used it, we can reasonably assume, we can reasonably conclude that that area must have been where Beersheba was located. There is only one region close to the Nile River where the word Bar is used in the same way that Abraham and Hagar used it. That place is in present-day Chad as well as Western Sudan. In that region, you find names such as Bar Salamat, Bar Auk, Bar El Ghazal, and so on, all of which refer to a place which had water. The part of that region which is closest to the Nile River is in Western Sudan. That means that it is highly likely that Beersheba, which is where Abraham lived when he was in Canaan, must have been located in the western parts of present-day Sudan. It is true that the Luo of Kenya and Tanzania also name places using the word Bar in the same way that Abraham and Hagar did. Places in Kenya which have been named that way include Bar Olengo, Baragulu, and Barding, and so on. I am not sure if the Luo of Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, and the DRC use the word Bar in the same way. It is almost certain that the Luo used the word Bar in that way because that is how that word was used in the place that they originated from, which is Bar El Ghazal. Bar El Ghazal is the name of 2 administrative regions, one in Chad and the other one in Sudan. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that the biblical Israel was actually located in Central Africa. The information which I have provided up to this point in this video agrees perfectly with other evidence which I have presented on this channel and which confirms that biblical Israel was located in Central Africa. The territory of that land was partly in present-day Chad, in the southern part of Chad, in the northern part of the Central African Republic, in Western Sudan, and possibly in the eastern part of Cameroon. The city of Jerusalem was actually located at a place called Jebel Mara, which is in Darfur region of Western Sudan. The long-standing conflict in Darfur, as well as in all territories which once were part of biblical Israel, is being orchestrated intentionally to make it dangerous for anyone who discovers this truth to visit that area and to prevent the people who now live in that area from discovering or hearing this truth. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and have a good day.